In this video, I'm going to teach you all about the Scrum framework overview, and we're going to start by imagining a scenario. Your boss walks into your office and brings a big opportunity to you. She explains a great idea for a new fancy product that she knows the customer is just gonna love. And she's picked you to make it a reality. Your lucky day, I guess. She explains the high-level concepts of this new product, and she mentions two things that make you sweat a little bit, all right? She stresses the importance of speed, getting the product out there. She says, we need this product to be live really quickly, or we're gonna miss out on this opportunity, she says. And she emphasizes the importance of getting a great version out so the customer can see the value now. And then she says, I want you to improve it over time. Now, while you see the need for the speed to market and continual improvement, it all makes sense to you. When you think about the mountains of waterfall processes that you've been using to run long-term projects in the past, you realize that they're not set up, these waterfall processes, for speed and iterations. So you start to sweat even more. Now, what can you do in this scenario? Well, number one thing we need to do is we're going to abandon waterfall, okay? Jump off the lifeboats, and we're going to leverage Scrum, okay? So that's what we're here to learn about. So what is Scrum? Well, Scrum is an incremental and an iterative approach to project management. So both of them, let's talk it through. When we say incremental, we mean small chunks of completed work are delivered throughout the project. So instead of one big chunk at the end, we're going to go blip, 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 goodness all the way through the project. And iterative means that the work delivered is constantly improved upon to make a better product throughout the entire endeavor. So it's incremental and iterative, the best of both worlds, exactly what your boss wants. You're in luck. Now, Scrum was created in the early 90s by two guys, Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber, and dudes, they are cool dudes, all right? They wrote the first version of the Scrum Guide in 2010. That's what it looks like. And it is the rules of the game for Scrum. This is our little baby Bible, and I'm gonna break it down for you because I love this book. Now, Scrum is a lightweight framework, the guys state. They say that helps people, teams, and organizations generate value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. So that sounds like the scenario that you're facing now with your boss, right? Now, when we think about these words, lightweight framework, what does that mean? Lightweight framework. Waterfall's not lightweight, it's heavyweight, right? All those processes, all those things, there's just so much to do. Scrum, opposite, lightweight framework. And what we mean is it's a surprisingly simple approach. It's going to lay out 3 roles, 5 events, and 3 artifacts that you'll learn about, but every element of the framework serves a very specific purpose. So this is laser-focused project management in a sense. Now, changing the core design or ideas of Scrum, this comes from both individuals. Leaving out elements or not following the rules of Scrum covers up problems, and it limits the benefits of Scrum, and it potentially even rendering it useless. Now, this is from the founders. So they're saying we only have a couple rules here, but you gotta follow them. So as a newbie, we do not want to go Wild West and start painting like an artist. No, we want to follow the Scrum method, the framework that I'll teach you. Scrum is simple in its design, and following the framework is the path. So learn and improve through the process is what you need to do, okay? Now, the amazing thing is that when you diligently follow the Scrum framework, both your product will improve and your team's ability to get work improves as well. So it improves your product, and there's a continuous improvement aspect to it where your team gets stronger, tighter, and more capable through the process. Sounds pretty good, right? So let's learn some more. Now, the thing you're gonna love is that rather than providing detailed instructions which overwhelm you, Scrum guides the team's relationships and interactions through these events and the way they operate, okay? So it's more about relationships and interactions to get an effective outcome. That's what we're looking for. Now, Scrum combines 4 formal events for inspection and adaptation. We'll talk about that inspection and adaptation a lot. So 4 formal events for inspection and adaptation of the product and the process and everything that we produce, okay? Now, the entire, what they call a containing event, and you'll see it in a second, is called the sprint. That's what holds everything. It's usually 2 weeks long, okay? Now, the sprint, that's where the magic is. All the details are contained within the sprint. All the actions are contained within the sprint. You're going to see it. Don't worry. This is where ideas are translated into customer value, okay? Now, most simply, here's how Scrum works. An idea is out there, you get it, and then boop, it pumps out into little baby Christmas presents. They call them increments there. Now, this is about as simple as it picture goes, and it really doesn't tell you much, so I gotta go deeper into this lightweight framework. I'm telling you, Scrum is all about 3 team members, 3 Scrum team members, 5 Scrum events. They're also like called meetings or ceremonies, but events is the way I want you to think about them. And 3 Scrum artifacts and commitments. And we're going to go deep into all these in the later videos, but I'm going to paint a picture now to let you see them. All right. So as we talk about the 3 Scrum team members, there's no project manager. Let me show you what the members are. So the 3 Scrum members, number 1, there's a product owner. And I did that little picture, guy with a tie. He's got a little magnifier or whatever you call that thing, or you can see out in the distance. He's like a visionary, right? And so it's a visionary leader accountable for maximizing the product value, finding out what we are going to accomplish, defining exactly what we need to do and ordering it on a list, okay? Now, developers, those are our trusted. They're like the Navy SEALs of workers, man. They are self-organizing, self-managing. They're fantastic, all right? They're cross-functional, self-organizing team members. And they define how the product features get built and they build them, all right? So product owner defines what will be built. The developers define how it will be built, okay? And there's a third person. This third person is called the Scrum Master. Now, the Scrum Master is accountable for fostering the Scrum environment because it's different, it's unique, and it's defined, okay? So the Scrum Master is there to build the environment, create the conditions, kind of like a servant leader, right? And develop the product owner and the developer's ability to be more effective. That's what the Scrum Master is there for. So coach, facilitator, guider, that kind of person. So those are the 3 roles, and we're going to go super deep in individual videos on each. Now, we're going to jump down to the bottom. We're going to talk about 3 little Scrum artifacts, okay? Now, think of artifacts as the structure Scrum provides to streamline value creation, and I'll tell you more. So, think about the product owner. We say that visionary person looking out there to define what we need to build in what order so they can get going, right? The product owner is continually pulling the features, the ideas needed for the product. And you can think about it. You get, whoa, all these ideas stacked up. You know, should you start everything at once? If you start everything at once, you can't get anything done. So no, we got that problem. And how will you keep everything organized if you're the product owner? So you get all these ideas. They all seem great. Some are better than others. How do we keep them organized? Now, artifact number 1 is called a product backlog. I know this is the first time you're seeing it, but let's just take it in. We're going to go deeper later. The product backlog is an emergent, ordered list of what is needed to improve the product. So all the things that we need and could do are listed there. Those little lines are little features and functionalities that we could work on. And I'm emphasizing the word could because just because you put it on the product backlog list does not mean it's going to get built. It's a way to be held and organized to say the stuff at the top is the stuff most likely that we're going to build that will provide value, and the stuff at the bottom maybe will provide value to the customer in a way, but it all supports the product goal, okay? Now, it's a single source of work for the developers. The developers will pull off this, and we'll talk about how in a little bit, but that's what the product backlog is, and it is owned by the product owner, right? So they are the ones that put the stuff on the backlog, they prioritize it, they get it ready for the team to work. Makes sense. Now, if the product backlog contains what could be worked, right, as it moves up, where is the what is being worked held? Well, you don't know yet, but I'm getting ready to tell you. So in artifact number 2, it's called the sprint backlog. So we went from product backlog to sprint backlog, and it's a smaller little list, okay? It's a focused list of what the developers will build during the sprint, okay? What they're actually going to put, a wrench to and do, okay? It includes the why. What is the sprint goal? What value is the sprint delivering? It talks about what the product backlog items selected for the sprint. So as we see, boop, we had these items drop off there, boop, pop back in here, and that's what we're going to deliver. And then how. They have an actionable plan for how they're going to attack each one of those 3 little lines and the little tasks they're going to complete to deliver an increment, meaning a completed, potentially shippable piece of work or functionality. Now, we can't let people work forever. So what I like to do is show this little longer rectangular box to represent the finite nature of the sprint, okay? 2 weeks it usually is that we give the team 2 weeks to work on the things. It can be up to 4 as recommended, but most likely 2 weeks. So that's what that larger box is there to indicate. And as we think about it, we have the product owner right up there sitting on top of the product backlog. We have the team sitting inside right next to the sprint backlog, working the work, and the Scrum Master is floating around, observing, coaching, developing everybody while this is all happening. So those are 2 artifacts. Now, artifact number 3 is as the team starts to work through completing those product backlog items, the functionalities, they produce an increment, meaning a completed piece of work. And the way the Scrum Guide says it, it's a concrete stepping stone toward the product goal. I like the way that sounds, a concrete stepping stone. We're not there, but we're working our way to the progress, right? Now, the completed work must meet what we call the definition of done, meaning everything around the work is complete and it's approved. I'll tell you more about it later, but it's completed work and it's ready for the customer, all right? And it's an additive feature contributing to the overall product, meaning each increment, okay? Now, during a sprint, you can produce a couple increments. It's not just one little Christmas present. If you get multiple functionalities, better for the customer, right? And so you can produce multiple increments per sprint. That's a good thing, right? So those are the 3 artifacts. And then we go to the 5 events. And this is how the fluid flows through the system, if you will. How we get from that product backlog to the sprint backlog all the way through the back, and how do we get better as a system. So let me walk you through the 5 Scrum events. Here we go. Now, Scrum event number 1 is called the sprint, all right? So this is what they call a container for all the other events. And this purple box is to dictate the 2-week experience, if you will, the 2-week mini project that is the sprint, okay? Now, it is a fixed length, 1 month or less, the Scrum Guide recommends, but most people in life choose 2-week sprints, okay? That's what my boys and girls do a lot. Occasionally we'll do 1-week sprints. We'll talk about why, okay? Now, a new sprint starts directly after the conclusion of our previous sprint. So it's 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and it's right up against each other. And everything else is contained within it. So all the work, all the events, everything is contained within this, what they call a time box, a 2-week sprint, okay? It's necessary. All the work that's necessary to achieve the product goal is within this. And we just work sprint to sprint to sprint. Now, Scrum event number 2. Now that we have the box that contains everything, it's sprint planning. That's the first event that happens, okay? Sprint planning is where we initiate the sprint by laying out the work that needs to be performed during the sprint, okay? Now, it's a collaborative session. Product owner, developer, Scrum Master, all got to be in there. Product owner and product owner and developers working together to get down to define why the sprint is valuable. Product owner would bring that. What can be done in the sprint? They talk it through, the product owner and the team, all right? And then how the chosen work will get done. And we leverage the team and the developers heavily because they know best about what they can do, their capability, their flow, all those things. They define it. So we're trying to finding why, what, and how, all in the sprint planning meeting. So it starts filling up just enough into the sprint backlog. And we bring that in and we don't add anything more. And we allow them to work for 2 weeks. Now, the next meeting is called a daily scrum, okay? In all these meetings, we're gonna have individual videos that go deep, so don't worry. Now, the daily scrum is a 15-minute team daily meeting, okay? Now, the purpose of this little meeting is to inspect the progress, the team's progress in completing the work toward the sprint goal. And if they need to, as they go through and learn about how things are progressing, they can adapt the sprint backlog as necessary, and they can adjust their plan for delivering on that sprint goal to complete the upcoming work, all right? So they are there. It's a collaboration session. This is what I'm doing. This is what you're doing. What problems do you have? How can I help you? We don't do a lot of deep diving there. We're just trying to get awareness and progress as we move through. So that's the daily Scrum. The next meeting is called the sprint review. Now, at the end of the 2 weeks, the timer goes off right before the end of it, and it says, boom, it's sprint review time. And what they want to do is inspect the outcome of the sprint to determine basically what was completed and what future adaptations need to be made, okay? Now, the Scrum team presents the completed work to the product owner and the customer and stakeholders, whoever's there, that everything that meets the definition of done, okay? And the Scrum team and the stakeholders review what was accomplished. They look at the form, the functionality. Does it work the way it thinks it should be? What new ideas do they have? Any new ideas go back to the backlog. And if it's an approved product, it can go boop off to the customer, okay? And then they start collaborating on what they should do next, given that they know what they just accomplished. Because if you think about it, sometimes when you get work done, it becomes a lot clearer on the next natural step. So that's what they determine in the sprint review, okay? Now, the last event is called the sprint retrospective. And this is our continuous improvement hour and a half, if you will, every 2 weeks. Now, the purpose is to find ways to increase the quality and the effectiveness of the team. So if it's for the team, who needs to be there? The product owner, the developers, the Scrum Masters, they all got to be there. And they discuss what went well during the sprint. Like, what did we do well? What were the interactions like? All those things through all the events and meetings. And then what problems did we encounter, okay? So they want to say the smiley things and the frowny things, and what problems were or were not solved and why is what we want to understand. And through this conversation, the team is going to identify the most important changes that need to be made. 1 or 2 things that they can take back for the next sprint, because you know what happens in about 15 minutes? Boop! After we get out of the retro, bloop, another sprint starts. And you know what the first event would be? It would be the sprint planning meeting. So we need to get ready to say next sprint, which starts very, very soon. This is what we're going to do to improve the next one and be a little bit better. So those are the 5 little events. The Scrum framework in its simplicity is beautifully effective. It is beautiful. And as you start to be a practitioner and use it, you're going to make mistakes. Goodness me, I've made so many mistakes. But as you get better at it, you know, your team gets better, the products get better, it gets smoother, and you find more opportunities to be more effective. So that's the goal as we go through here. Now, the thing that really makes the Scrum framework really, really effective are these 3 pillars, okay? It's all about transparency with all things that you're doing, with your team, with your work, with your backlogs, with your final product, with your roadmaps, with everything. You want to be 100% transparent, okay? You want everybody to see everything and have a clear picture of what's going on. The only way that we can start collaborating well is if we understand the true picture, and transparency is where it starts. Now, the second thing is inspection. We're constantly inspecting, and we'll talk deeper in the videos about that. We're inspecting what the product backlog looks like and what we're trying to accomplish. We inspect the work as it progresses. We inspect the final products that we produce in the review. We inspect our working together process in the retrospective. So inspection is key, okay? Because that's the only way we're going to find ways to improve. And lastly, if we don't make changes from what we learn from our inspections, then it was a waste of time. So we need to learn to adapt as we learn that we found wrinkles, we found problems, we found cracks. We can adapt our understanding of what the customer wants, of the ways we work together, etc., to get better. So it's about transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Now, that was just an overview of the framework. I hope you loved it. We're going to go deeper. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to help you understand the Scrum roles even more.